Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, where in our open and welcoming community we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. We extend a special welcome to our newcomers who are here. I promise there's usually more of us. The snow has us as a Spartan crowd here today, but thank you for plowing through the snow and getting here. It's good to be together this morning. We have a few announcements before we begin the worship service here. The first is that all are invited to the annual Community Martin Luther King Jr. Day Interfaith service tomorrow night. That's January 20th at 7 p.m. at the Princeton United Methodist Church. Many congregations of many faiths participate, and the preacher this year is Reverend Maureen Gerald, newly serving First Baptist Princeton, whose sermon is titled "The Beloved Community in the Age of Shrinking Circles." It's always an uplifting service with great music, and so we in the Princeton Clergy Association hope you can make it tomorrow night. Next Sunday, January 25th, we're hosting a spring sale brunch to help fund meals for our many volunteers on Setup Week, as well as other sale supplies. Everyone is always invited to our brunches, and any sale leaders or volunteers from previous years who are willing and able to help at the brunch and or bring a dish are encouraged to sign up on the Sign Up Genius on the website. It's also time to prepare for the annual fellowship auction, always a fun event that brings us together in friendship and lends support to our congregation. Be sure to send your donations to Louise Sr. no later than February 6th. The online auction begins on Friday the 13th at 5 p.m. and ends on Friday, February 20th at 8 p.m. And then our celebration party is from 5 to 7 p.m. on Saturday, February 21st. And there you can bid on the baskets and items you can take home immediately. There'll be plenty of announcements and emails about the auction coming up soon. And indeed, volunteers will be emailing and calling and inviting you to make some donations to the auction. Please respond as quickly as you can so that we can get everything in place. And you can check the website for creative ideas on what to offer for the auction. And lastly, in light of the ongoing government-orchestrated violence in Minnesota, our congregation and UU Washington Crossing will be joining together for a vigil this Friday, January 23rd at 7 p.m. at their building in Titusville. Reverend Kim Wildchesky and I will lead the service of prayer and music in solidarity with a larger gathering of religious witness that is planned in that area at the end of the week as well. All are welcome, and please bring your friends, and we will send out an e-blast this week with this information, but it's Friday, 7 p.m. at Washington Crossing UU in Titusville. You haven't missed any announcements about this. We just figured it out yesterday, so we'll send out those emails pretty soon. And now, with open minds and loving hearts, with yesterday's wisdom and tomorrow's promise, let us worship together in peace and in unity. And we begin with a ministry moment by Ted Fetter and Kevin Traynor of our Racial Justice Task Force.
So, as Unitarian Universalists, we often speak about our living tradition, the idea that our faith isn't a static set of rules, but it's a growing, breathing commitment to justice and love.
Racial justice is at the heart of that tradition and our commitment in this congregation. Justice for all, especially the marginalized, is an essential element of who we are. We think it always will be. Our American culture carries the stains of slavery, Native American genocide, and deep-rooted racism. And Unitarian Universalists who are part of that culture need to be intentionally anti-racist in our souls.
About 10 years ago, we established the Racial Justice Ministry, by the way, not the task force, I know it says that, but we're on ministry, as an important part of our activities. In the last year or two, we've had success with book readings, workshops, and films, group outings to Native America programs, and Juneteenth celebrations. And in 2024, we worked on ways to concentrate our election campaign work on racial justice areas.
The needs of our community and the greater world are always changing. We don't want to just keep doing what we've done in the past. We want to do what is most important to us now.
So what are we called to do in this coming year? What do we need to learn more about In what ways do we need to be more active? How can we contribute to making ourselves, our communities, and our nation better, more consciously anti-racist?
We will meet after worship next Sunday, January 25th, starting at noon for about 90 minutes to try to answer those questions. We'll meet in the Murray Room, and we invite everyone who is interested to join us. You don't need to be an expert on racial justice or social justice to be there. You just need to be someone who cares about how UU Princeton shows up in the world.
So help us decide where our energy, our resources, and our hearts should go. We'll be in Robinson after the service to answer any questions. I think it'll be pretty easy to find us. But
Come next Sunday, the 25th, after worship. We would love to get your ideas and build this next chapter together. Thank you.
thank you.
Our chalice words this morning come from William Shakespeare, Taming of the Shrew, Act 4, Scene 3. My tongue will tell the anger of my heart, or else my heart, concealing it, will break, and rather than it shall, I will be free. And now, if you look in your order of service and join in the unison affirmation printed there. History has taught that it is not enough for people to be angry. The supreme task is to organize and unite people so that their anger becomes a transforming force.
Reverend Meg Barnhouse was UU Princeton's interim minister from 2009 to 2011. She was generous and talented and loving and very creative. She was a singer and a writer and a preacher and a leader. In a short time here, she ministered in ways that have blessed our congregation ever since, and her gifts reached well beyond here, blessing our entire denomination in countless ways. We are grateful for her life and her friendship and her humor and her wisdom and her voice, and now we are grateful for her legacy. Last week in our service, we paused to send her love as she was near the end of her life, and indeed she did die earlier this week at home in the company of her wife Kaya and her adult kids. There are two memorial services planned for Meg. Both of them are in Texas. One is at Kaya's congregation where she's a UU minister. One is at the Austin congregation where Meg was minister emerita. They'll both be live streamed, so we'll email out all of those details, and they're both at the end of February, so there's a little bit of time to plan for them. And while it was appropriate last week to send Meg love in the silence, it's also right to honor Meg's life with song and with story. The problem is picking one song and one story, for she created many great pieces of each. So today, to celebrate her life and to show our gratitude for her legacy, I'll read one of her stories titled Brick by Brick, and then we'll sing one of her songs titled All Will Be Well. And then we'll have a meta meditation, which is what I heard her pray several times when I was fortunate enough to be in a space where she was leading worship. This reading is titled Brick by Brick. It's from her collection titled Did I Say That Out Loud? She writes, all summers, workers have been building a brick wall along the road by my neighborhood. Against the brutal heat, they stretch a tarp overhead to get a little shade. I've watched them take bricks in their dusty hands one by one, butter them thickly with mortar, line them up and tap them down, row by row. One man who looks to be in his 70s is the leader. Slender and tall, he moves from one group of bricklayers to the next, reaching and bending, looking like a heron in a marsh. When he pauses, he stands very straight. I see him teach the others how to do the work. He stoops over to look at a line of bricks, hands on his thighs, inspecting the work. Sometimes as I drive by, I see him put his hands on the back of the person he's teaching. Often they are both smiling. He looks like he loves what he's doing. I wonder how he can love building walls day after day, handling bricks, teaching the art of laying bricks. Is it the teaching he loves? Seeing how his students learn, what their styles are, how their work shows their character? Does he love the wall itself? Does he know about when it'll be done? Does he look forward to seeing it finished, or does he love the process, the feel of the bricks in his hands, the squish of the mortar, the challenge of making the symmetry of pillars and arches, the geometry of it all? I think, from the look on his face, that he loves the process. I imagine that he never thinks about the end of the project, the completion of the wall. I think he will go on to the next wall, as if it were just a continuation of this one, then the next one, and the next, and never be bored. I want to be like that, and I am, I guess. In my job as a minister, the bricks are stories. I hear stories of family and work, stories of loss and reconciliation, stories of rejection and disaster, illness and healing, birthing and dying. I tell stories every Sunday and in between, teaching, challenging, confessing, inviting people to learn and laugh and think. Brick by brick, story by story, we build a church, seeing the patterns, the symmetry, the plain joy of setting one story on the other, sustained by the strong and beautiful structures they make. We will never be finished. It's okay. And the song we'll sing is All Will Be Well. She wrote this using lines from Julian of Norwich, who was a 14th century abbotess in England. Julian of Norwich had these visions from God, and she journaled them, and they became very well-known spiritual writings. And All Will Be Well was what Julian heard God respond to her when she was praying about everything that was wrong in the world. And this was the time of the Black Plague, when people were dying left and right. And she heard the voice of God say, all will be well. Meg worked this into a song. And in the video that you'll see Meg singing it, along with Kaya, her wife, is playing with her. And they released this right as the pandemic started, right as the quarantine part of the pandemic started in 2020. The song is older than that. She didn't write it for that, but that's when they released this video. So the refrain is all will be well. They sing it a bunch. I invite you to join in when you hear Meg and Kaya sing it. And Dunbar will get us going here.
All will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. I said, Julian, you are holy, you are holding my hand, and Julian, you are holy, you are holding my hand. She said, all will be well. All will be well, all manner of things will be well. I said, Julian, do you not know about sorrow? And Julian, do you not know about pain? I said, Julian, do you not know about hunger? Julian, do you not know about shame? She said, all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. I said, Julian, do you not know about loneliness? And Julian, do you not know about disease? And I said, Julian, do you not know about cruelty? I said, Julian, it's too much, it's brought me to my knees. And she said, all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. And she said, no one does not know about sorrow. May no one does not know about pain. She said, no one does not know about hunger, and no one does not know about shame. She said, all will be well. All will be well. All manner of things will be well. She said, no one does not know about loneliness, and no one does not know about disease. She said, no one does not know about cruelty. She said, I know it's too much, brought me to my knees, where I heard, all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. She said, baby girl, do you not know about tenderness? She said, baby girl, do you not know about friends? She said, baby girl, do you not know about the spirit? She said, baby girl, do you not know it's only love that never ends. It's only love that never ends. And so all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. And so all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well.
We'll close this remembrance with the meditation that I heard Meg offer more than any other in any kind of worship setting. It's the metta meditation, the loving kindness meditation from Buddhism. And it starts with we offer ourselves peace, and then it extends outward and outward to other people. So I invite you to settle in your seats and close your eyes, take a few nice deep breaths, find a space of quietude and peace, and repeat to yourself in your mind, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be safe, may I be at peace. And then to think of someone you love, someone close to you in your heart, and envision them and say in your mind, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be safe, may you be at peace. And then to think of a stranger or someone you encounter but don't know very well. Envision them in your mind and say to them, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be safe, may you be at peace. And then to think in your mind of someone with whom you struggle, with whom you have a difficult relationship. And I remember Meg, when she led this, she would say, it's okay to say this next one through gritted teeth if you need to think of the person and hold them in your mind and say to them in your heart, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be safe, may you be at peace. And lastly, to think of all beings, the whole world of Gaia and all of creation. Hold that expanse of love and life in your heart and say to it, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be safe, may you be at peace. And may we always be grateful for the life and legacy of Reverend Meg Barnhouse. May we be grateful for what she offered our congregation. May her wife and her kids and her family and close friends be held in their grief. And may she live in peace and power and everlasting song. Amen.
Good morning. To look at me in context, I wouldn't be an obvious candidate for a punk rock fan. I mean, whatever processes produce a person's musical taste, you have to grant the premise that a lot of it is shaped by family. I grew up in a family with two obvious major musical threads. One, both professionally and personally, is what's known as classical music, though to be pedantic, as my father would surely want, it's actually Baroque and Romantic and Renaissance and polyphony and a whole bunch of other things. The other thread is the kind of complex, psychedelic, poetic, mind-expanding rock and roll popular in the late 1960s and early 1970s. My mother's least favorite joke that I make about my parents' divorce is that the custody discussions about their Hendrix LPs were more intense than the ones about their children. However, as a teenager, I myself wouldn't have predicted spending 20 years going to the occasional mosh pit or headbanging with headphones or earbuds while walking to work. Because I was a really earnest kid, heart on sleeve, out to change the world. Before diving into the history of punk, I remember having a superficial perception that all punk music was like the Sex Pistols, too nihilistic, not poetic enough to really reach me. I love a good dollop of rebellion as much as the next gal, but ironic distance has never really been my style. Nor, at that point, was anger. I hadn't met any punk fans either, never witnessed the wild but wholesome throng, or sat in conversation while someone lovingly spoke about their favorite group and their influences. What changed? Well, I escaped high school, went to college, and got my first job where I could listen to the radio for a good portion of my shift. Being that this was Metro Boston, circa 2004, half that time was sports talk radio for my sins. But the other half was spent hooked into the now late and much lamented WBCN, a radio station that had been shaping rock culture around Boston for nearly half a century at that point. It introduced me to so many bands that I still love today, like The Killers or My Chemical Romance. However, the real revelation to me was Celtic punk, like Flogging Molly and especially the Dropkick Murphys. The Dropkick Murphys, having gone for nearly 30 years now, have plenty of fantastic songs on a multitude of subjects. Some of my favorite sing-alongs include both the toxic barroom romance of The Dirty Glass and The Season's Upon Us, one of the funniest dysfunctional Christmas songs in existence. This band was and is my doorway into the emotional complexity of good punk rock. To paraphrase country songwriter Harlan Howard, something with just 3 chords can also absolutely have the truth. Through the Dropkicks and the world they opened to me, I've been lucky to find plenty of aesthetically angry songs that have struck me to my core. The scream of Al Barr and the rasp of Ken Casey have echoed in my ears as I matured, attempting to make my little corner of the world a better place. What I also learned over that time was how closely entwined the history of punk rock is with folk music and reggae, and so many more musics born out of the struggle for social justice. Some people might only know the Dropkicks from Tessie or Shipping Up to Boston, playing at Fenway Park in the 7th inning. They may not know that that same period saw the band also release iconic versions of both a Woody Guthrie classic, Gonna Be a Blackout Tonight, and the traditional Irish protest lament, Fields of Athenry. As Ken Casey will point out repeatedly to any red hat wearing, Nazi tattoo sporting people who come to their shows and are promptly surprised, the Dropkicks have always been a band of the working class. They dove and dive still into the music of the downtrodden, of the masses of whom proud union men and women have organized over a century and change. For this year, this past year has been the angriest I've been. It's been the angriest I've allowed myself to be in a long time. It's been a year where to be paying attention, to be awake, has been to be furious, or at least pissed off, a whole lot of the time. Cruelty is the point, and let me tell you, that is the least punk rock sentiment imaginable. So many times, just going through your day, it's hard to find a space for all of that anger. But the Murphys have gone through my days with me since I was 19 years old, and they show no signs of stopping. Their new release of last July, For the People, has the usual broad range of songs for any of my moods. The album is even emblazoned with a black rose on the front cover. But there's a song that I keep putting on a whole lot of the time, Who'll Stand With Us. It's not the title words, however, that keep ringing through my head, though, but another part of the chorus. Don't tell us everything is fine. Don't tell us everything is fine. The band chose a black rose because, as they say, it is traditionally a symbol of grief, but they chose it also as a symbol of change and transformation. Don't tell us everything is fine. We can see that it's not. We're angry, but angry because we know things can be better, that we deserve better, that the people and communities we love deserve better. We'll put a good punk song in our ears, a black rose at our lapels, and work to make that better a reality.
We send a special thank you and nod of support to Reverend Jennifer Kelleher. She's preaching this morning at our congregation in Monmouth County in Lincroft as part of Leadership Leaves, the statewide UU sabbatical support program. We help each other with worship when ministers are on sabbatical as part of that program. So she's preaching this week. Drake Bear preached there last week. I preached there in September, and Ted Fitter preached there in September as well. I think their sabbatical is about over, so this will be the last stretch of that. But thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Ted, Drake, and Lauren Foss, who is the president of the Leadership Leaves Council. 90 miles from home, on a bus after a long day, Dr. King, then a junior in high school, was ordered by the bus driver to stand up so that some newly boarded white travelers could have their seats. Dr. King was with one of his favorite teachers who had spent the day chaperoning him at a statewide oratorical contest. A few days earlier, he had won his school's contest, which qualified him for the state one, which is reported to be his first public oration not in a church service. It won't surprise anyone to know that he won that speech contest. The assigned topic was the U.S. Constitution. They all had to give a speech on that, and in particular, the African-American experience of it and how it related to them. The central illustration that he used was that of Marian Anderson, the great vocalist, who had been barred from singing in, of all places, Constitution Hall in D.C. to an integrated audience. He used an experience of racism in Constitution Hall to give a speech on the Constitution. This was in 1939, and Eleanor Roosevelt would respond to the exclusion of Anderson, who is much less honored for her moral leadership in the movement than she should be, by helping to arrange an open-air concert in front of the Lincoln Memorial, where Anderson performed to an integrated audience that included numerous D.C. dignitaries. About 5 years after that, King would, as a junior in high school, use accounts of that concert to remark that 75,000 people stood patiently for hours to hear a great artist at a historic moment. She sang as never before with tears in her eyes. When the words of America and nobody knows the trouble I've seen rang out over that great gathering, there was a hush on the sea of uplifted faces, black and white, and a new baptism of liberty, equality, and fraternity. However, his next sentence recentered the ongoing reality of racism when he said, "That was a touching tribute, but Miss Anderson may not as yet spend the night in any good hotel in America." Soon after that, the high school junior spoke the line most commonly associated with that particular speech, saying, "If freedom is good for any, it is good for all." This, to him, was the essence of the U.S. Constitution. Freedom promised must be delivered to all, meaning also that freedom denied to some is not real freedom. If some are free and others are not, it's not freedom. It may be bigotry or power or advantages. It may be who you know. It may be your race. It may be your wealth or your family's wealth or the sort of wealth that allows one to reach adulthood less burdened or unburdened by earlier mistakes, by bad choices that can often be alleviated judicially for the right price. It could be a lot of things, but it's not freedom if it's not equally available. And yet, King being King ends the speech with a dream not really cast as a dream, but still seeming an awful lot like one. His closing words include the lines, "America experiences a new birth of freedom in her sons and daughters. She incarnates the spirit of her martyred chief," he means Lincoln. "Their loyalty is repledged, their devotion renewed to the work he left unfinished. My heart throbs anew in the hope that, inspired by the example of Lincoln, imbued with the Spirit of Christ, they will cast down the last barrier to perfect freedom." The barrier of which he speaks is racism, and he closes with the hope, the dream, the vision of people living in the spirit of Jesus and Lincoln and bringing true freedom to the land of the free. That true freedom must be universal, not partial. It's freedom for all, not some. It's not the fake freedom that would demand that he and his teacher stand for a 90-mile bus ride so that white passengers could sit down, which is what he experienced on the ride home after winning state with that speech on the Constitution. After delivering that speech, which masterfully wove together Lincoln, the president, and a concert at the Lincoln Memorial, which threaded together the U.S. Constitution and racism at Constitution Hall, that described a clear act of moral courage that came at a literal cost for Marian Anderson, that subtly but unmistakably lifted up the advocacy strategies for allies. He was reminded on the bus ride home of the reality of racism just before him, for he was told to stand. And at first he refused, but his teacher urged him to stand, for she said they must obey the law. King wrote in his autobiography, "It was the angriest I have ever been in my life." It was the kind of anger that he would feel again when his home was bombed, when kids in his church were killed, when he was punched in the face by a Nazi, when his family was threatened, when the movement would stall or his leadership publicly demeaned. It was the kind of anger with which he lived, feeling it, knowing it, and understanding it in himself and others. He spoke of it, and he understood it. His devotion to nonviolent resistance included the awareness of the power of anger to destroy or create. Nonviolence is based on the reality of violence within ourselves and among our relations. Nonviolence starts with violence and then tries to build a better way of living and responding in this world. In religious traditions, in myths and spiritual folklore, in the beautiful poetry that imagines a place of impossible perfection, there are often these peaceful places from which we come and to which we'll return, and they are without violence and anger and want and need. They are paradise, and they're places where nonviolence and love are where things begin and end. They're portrayed as every moment of being in eternity. But in this world, in our lives, there's no elemental state of perfect peace from which violence arises. In this world, there is just always violence, rooted in anger and other values that can be virtues and vices. I think that's why in so many creation myths, violence happens so soon. We're supposed to imagine a world without it. There's this brief glimpse of it, but also understand that we'll never know a world without it. Adam and Eve were evicted from paradise. One of their kids killed the other, and every person since has been born outside of the garden. It was once and may still be and may be again, but it's not where we are now. Now we are faced with and tempted by the violence and the shadow sides of anger. And with that, what turns a virtue into a vice is how the anger is used. To destroy is the vice. To build is the virtuous action. To harm is the vice. To heal is the virtue. What we do is what counts. Values are great, but what we practice matters much, much more. And when our anger builds something better, then it's anger for the good. When it tears us down within, when we use it to demean others, when it makes us less human and makes us see others as less human, it's for the bad. Anger is that which can help build a better world than we've ever known, or it's what can cause us to tear each other apart. Or anger can cause us to detach from one another in a kind of chosen, sometimes philosophical despair. Meanwhile, the world goes on, with people in it living lives to be blessed, harmed, or ignored by everyone else. Uncontrolled, unrealized anger can isolate us by pushing others away or drawing us so into ourselves that we forget the good, the beauty, and the possibilities of life. Uncontrolled anger can make us seem big, which then makes us really small as people shy away, which spirals into more anger, and then we are really in its grip. King was aware of this potential in his own life and saw it in the broader movement, and so he focused on using anger to build things, to construct, to create new realities of equality and love. He organized anger into a movement. This was the gist of his remarks made in 1968, celebrating W.E.B. Du Bois that we said in our unison affirmation earlier. History has taught us that it is not enough for people to be angry. The supreme task is to organize and unify people so that their anger becomes a transforming force. His concern wasn't the anger, not that he knew then what that he knew then near what would be the end of his life, nor that he knew much earlier in high school. His concern was the unchecked anger that sickened the soul and made society worse. He spoke regretfully, personally, of leading with anger sometimes and watching people pull away from him. He spoke of how the opponents of racial justice sought to stoke the anger of the movement, for it would sway the people against those working for equality. Those opponents preferred the shouting and yelling of the activists to their singing and praying. They preferred violent responses to violent provocations. For those armed agents beating people on bridges and sicking dogs on them in the street and brutalizing them with fire hoses, chaos was the goal. Cruelty was the point. So it was then, and so it is today, on streets here across the country, as armed agents again, with the backing of a petulant, vindictive leader and a cowardly, fearful Congress and a stacked, capitulating court, harm and kill people again, using fear again, using violence, using lies and secrecy and unwarranted force again and again and again. The faces change, and they also don't change. Anger was the currency spent by the opponents that they depended on the activists paying back in kind, for then the movement could be portrayed as one of radicalism and fear, which would turn the majority away. King knew that the anger had to be organized into a movement of love and nonviolence, into something to strive for. He knew this would work better than the alternative in legal terms, but he also knew that this was the way to fight evil without becoming evil. Organizing the anger into love was the way to rise morally above that which ought not to be in the first place. It made love that first place and caused witnesses to reach for that revolutionary vision of nonviolence instead of living in this reactionary abyss of fear and chaos. King's love was not void of anger or frustration or the desire for or understanding of violence. Instead, it folded anger into its strategy of building a movement of revolutionary love. But it kept righteous anger in its very soul. There, it was named and known and transformed into something that helped and didn't harm, something that built, something that turned many toward a vision of a more moral future. It ignited that faith, that hope, that love with which people could build a better tomorrow that in practice reflected the values enshrined in those founding documents. It took a long time and many defeats, and the movement is not over, it will never end. But progress was made, and was made possible not only by love, but by righteous, organized anger that energized the movement. Anger was the response, the energy, the seed of moral clarity that saw and named the profane for what it was. Love was the vision, the value around which people could gather and act, and nonviolence was a strategy to get there or to get closer. Anger was the energy, love was the value, and nonviolence was the strategy. Together, these could overcome fear. These could build a huge coalition that could move toward clear, articulated, and reachable goals that found broad agreement. And those qualities had a way of keeping each other honest as well, for the love included the anger, and the anger reached out for the love, and the nonviolence used anger to choose love instead. King was angry as a teen when he was made to stand on the bus after having just won a competition, arguing that the Constitution shouldn't allow for such things. In that moment, he knew not for the first time and not for the last, but directly how far away the country was from its ideals, from the Constitution's ideals, from Lincoln's, and for him, from those of Jesus. He was demeaned, as was his teacher and another student who was with them, and it angered him as it should have. And from that moment, and with countless others, he organized anger into movements that made the country live in greater alignment with those values, of which he spoke with longing and appreciation and often frustration. He showed us that to be angry is good, so long as the anger builds something better for those to come, as long as that anger is enfolded into revolutionary love, as long as that anger always reaches out, not with a closed fist, but with an open hand, and welcomes everyone to a land that may never be paradise, but can always be more peaceful, more equal, and more loving. Let us, this weekend and always, honor King's life and be inspired by his love. Let us admire and learn from his long nonviolence, and let us be challenged to be angry as he was, in the right way, so that our anger builds, movement by movement, a world where everyone has a seat and everyone knows peace and is safe on the streets and is welcome. May it be so, and amen. After the service, we invite you to stick around for fellowship in Robinson Lounge, make some friends, have some coffee, get to know people, and I'm told that we have a lot of food to eat, so get something to eat as well. At the end of our hour, we extinguish our chalice, knowing that its light carries us until we gather again. Go forth grateful for the moments before you, the breath within you, the people among you, and the Spirit guiding you toward lives of love and kindness. And go forth knowing that you are held always and always with everyone else by that great love of no beginning and never ending. Go in peace, and amen.